Imagine 1940, Antarctica. Minus 50 degrees. In the middle of this frozen wasteland stands a gigantic machine, a 37-ton red monster with wheels almost 3 meters tall. American engineers were convinced this machine would open a new era of Antarctic exploration, but instead it slowly moves backwards, not because it broke down, but because this was the only way it could move at all. This is the Antarctic Snow Cruiser, a machine the United States spent $150,000 building in 1939, more than $3 million in today's money. It was sent to the end of the world to conquer Antarctica, and it was left there forever. But the story actually began several years earlier. In 1934, Admiral Richard Byrd's Antarctic expedition nearly ended in tragedy. Byrd was wintering alone at a remote weather station about 200 kilometers from the main base. Because of poor ventilation, carbon monoxide from a generator began to fill the small shelter. The Admiral gradually lost his strength and could barely move. Rescuing him was incredibly difficult. There was simply no vehicle capable of reaching him through the storms and the ice. Second in command was physicist and polar explorer Thomas Poulter. When he returned home, he carried one idea with him. We need a mobile base, a machine that can travel anywhere, survive any weather, and serve as a home for the team for an entire year. Poulter's idea sounded almost impossible, but within a few years, engineers began turning it into reality. The project was called the Antarctic Snow Cruiser, a massive mobile base designed specifically to travel across the frozen continent. The machine itself was a true giant, nearly 17 meters long and weighing up to 37 tons when fully loaded. Its wheels were almost 3 meters in diameter, each weighing more than 300 kilograms. Inside, the vehicle contained sleeping quarters for the crew, a kitchen, a scientific laboratory, a photo lab, and even a workshop. The fuel tanks could hold more than 20,000 liters of fuel, enough to travel thousands of kilometers without resupply. The roof even had space designed for a small Beechcraft reconnaissance airplane, which could help explore the surrounding Antarctic terrain. The entire machine was painted bright red, so it could be easily spotted against the endless white ice of Antarctica. After 2 years of development, the vehicle was built at the Pullman factory in Chicago, and the construction itself took only 11 weeks. For a project of this scale, that was an astonishingly short time. One of the most ambitious vehicles of its era had just been born. On October 24, 1939, the Antarctic Snow Cruiser left the Pullman factory in Chicago for the first time. Ahead of it was a journey of nearly 600 kilometers to Boston, where it would depart for Antarctica. The gigantic vehicle, almost 17 meters long, occupied nearly the entire width of the road, so its movement was escorted by police. In towns along the route, people gathered along the roadside just to see the unusual machine, which looked more like something from the future than a normal vehicle. While crossing a small bridge in Ohio, a steering problem occurred, and the snow cruiser slid off the road. It became partially stuck near the bridge, and the team needed time and help from local services to get it back onto the road. Despite the difficulties, the journey continued. On November 15, 1939, the snow cruiser finally arrived in Boston. There it was lifted by crane onto the expedition ship North Star, which would carry the vehicle to Antarctica. Many people believed that this giant machine would open a new era of exploration on the frozen continent. But the real problems were only just beginning. In January 1940, the expedition ship North Star finally reached the coast of Antarctica. The team built a large wooden ramp to lower the snow cruiser from the ship onto the ice. But as soon as the 37-ton vehicle began to descend, the structure started to crack under its weight. For a moment, it seemed the giant machine might slide off the edge of the ice and fall into the ocean. Fortunately, the vehicle was safely lowered onto the ice. But almost immediately it became clear that something was wrong. The wheels spun. The engines roared. But the machine barely moved. The problem was the tires. The enormous wheels were completely smooth with no tread at all. In theory, the idea seemed brilliant. Smooth rubber would not get packed with snow and ice. But on Antarctic snow, it simply slipped. The team tried everything. They reduced the tire pressure, added chains, and even tried cutting grooves into the rubber on the spot. Nothing worked. Ironically, the snow cruiser moved slightly better in reverse. The machine that had been built to conquer Antarctica could barely move across its surface. Over time, the snow cruiser began to be used simply as a base for research. Inside, scientists conducted experiments, measured cosmic rays, and studied the Antarctic ice. Then, the Second World War began. Funding for the expedition was cut. The team left Antarctica, and the snow cruiser remained there, alone in the endless ice. But the story of the machine did not end there. In 1958, an international Antarctic expedition rediscovered the snow cruiser. It was buried under nearly 7 meters of snow. Only bamboo poles left by earlier explorers marked the spot. The researchers dug down to the hatch and climbed inside. Everything looked as if the crew had left only recently. Tools, equipment, and even food supplies were still in place. By measuring the snow layer above the vehicle, scientists obtained unexpectedly valuable data about Antarctic snow accumulation over nearly 20 years. After that, the snow cruiser was never seen again. In 1963, a massive section of the Ross Ice Shelf, the same area where the Little America base once stood, broke away and drifted into the ocean. Most likely, the snow cruiser disappeared with it. Today, its exact location remains unknown. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Here we tell the stories of some of the most fascinating machines ever created.